Beruchim Haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Yud Ches Amud Beis, 12 lines from the top. Our Gemara explained that which states in the Mishnah Arba Diyumdin. What is Diyumdin? Explain the Gemara. Diyoi Amudim. It's a contraction of two words. Diyoi, doubled, Amudim. Because on every corner of the Be'er, we make a doubled type of reish. So that's one amma by one amma on every corner. Then the Gemara explained also that there are diyoi partsufim. According to one opinion, that Adam Harishon was created with two faces, Zochar and Nekeva. The Gemara most recently explained who is the one that is in front. It makes sense to say that it's the Zochar, because it's not appropriate for the Zochar to walk behind the Nekeva. It would be lacking derech eretz and a Gnai. The Gemara now explains with a Brisa the histaklus of Nashim Ntonu Rabbanon. Hamartze mois liisha biyadoi liyada. If a man is counting money before a woman from his hand to her hand, or miyada liyadoi, or from her hand to his hand, bishvia sheistakel bo, as a ploy to look at her hands. Afilu doime leMoshe Rabbeinu shekibel Torah mahar Sinai. Even if he is a person who has the righteousness and the Torah as great as Moshe Rabbeinu, who received the Torah from the hands of Hashem into his own hands, lo yenake medina shel Gehinnom. He will not be absolved from the din of Gehinnom. V'alova kosev oimer, and the pasuk states upon him, yad liyad lo yenake ra. From hand to hand, he will not be absolved from ra. Lo yenake medina shel Gehinnom. He won't be absolved from the judgment of Gehinnom. Omar Rav Nachman said the following statement: Manoyach am ha'oretz haya. Manoyach was an am ha'oretz. Shenemar brings a pasuk, Vayokom vayelech Manoyach acharei ishtoi, and he got up and he went after his wife. Maskif lo Rav Nachman bar Yitzchok elameyata gabe Elkana dersi vayelech Elkana acharei ishtoi hochinami. Elkana, it states he also went after his wife. Are you going to say he was also an Am Haaretz? Elkanah was the father of Shmuel Navi, and he's called one of the 10 Ish HaElokim. That was his greatness as a Navi. So how can you call him an Am Haaretz? Because he went after his wife. Gabe Alisha Dirsi Vayokam Vayelech Achareho Hochanami. Alisha also, the Talmud, the prized Talmud of the Navi Eliyahu, who himself was a Navi Elisha. Will you also say that he was an Am Haaretz? Ella, what it means over here by Elkanah and Elisha, it means Acharei Divarei Ve'etzasa, that they went after her words and her advice, her counsel. Hochanami Acharei Divarei Ve'etzasa. So too in regards to Manoyach, when his wife said to come out to the field, he went after her and her counsel. Says the Gemara, but still Rav Nachman said that Manoach was an Am Haaretz, and he brought this pasuk. That means he understood kipshutoi, this pasuk, that he literally walked behind her. Ask the Gemara, Rav Ashi, ulamai da Rav Nachman Manoach Am Haaretz haya. Explains the Gemara, afilu be Rav Nami loy kara. That means he even didn't read psukim that the Tinoka shall beis Rabban learn. Dirsiv, it states in the pasuk in regards to Rivka, when she then went to then be led by Eliezer, Eliezer Avram to Yitzchok Avinu, states Vatokam Rivka v'na'aroseha, that Rivka got up and together with her na'aroseha v'tirkavna ala gemalim, and she sat on the gemalim, vatelachna acharei ha'ish. And the pasuk emphasized that she went after the ish. Now, obviously, she didn't have to be told. We don't have to be told in the Torah that she followed Eliezer and Avram. She didn't know where to go. Obviously, she went with him. Why does it state vatelachna acharei ha'ish, that she went after the man? To teach you v'lo lifnei ha'ish, not before the man, as a teaching for all that are reading the Torah, to learn that a woman goes behind the man and the man does not go behind the woman. Omar Rabbi Yochanan acharei ari v'lo acharei isha. Rabbi Yochanan tells us behind, when one walks behind, better to go behind the ari, the ferocious lion, than behind the woman. And if we appreciate what he's saying, the lion, ferocious, strong, and dangerous as he is, still, Rabbi Yochanan is telling us that it's better to then walk behind that ferocious lion, because the lion is dangerous, of course, but at best he can kill a person and destroy his olam hazeh. But to go after a woman can destroy his olam haba. And still, says Rabbi Yochanan, better to go behind a woman, if necessary, than to go behind avodas kachavim. If he has only two ways to go, better to go behind the woman, because she may refuse him if he starts up with her. But avodas kachavim, nobody's going to then hold him back. Acharei avodas kachavim, says Rabbi Yochanan, v'lo acharei beis hakneses b'shah shemispalim, when the tzibur is mispalim. Better to go behind avodas kachavim than to go behind a shul while the tzibur is davening, because avodas kachavim, as bad as it is, person may need minimshach, but it's still going to be a possibility that you'll say that he's really looking for other koichos, but he still has a belief in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, whereas somebody who doesn't daven with the tzibur, when the tzibur is davening, it shows that he's a koifer in HaKadosh Baruch Hu Chalila. Says the Gemara, Vayter Vam Rabbi Yirmiyahu ben Elazar. Rabbi Yirmiyahu ben Elazar makes another statement. Kol oisan hashonim shaya Adam Harishon ben Nidui. All of those years that Adam Harishon, after the chet of the Eitz Hadas, when he was put into Nidui, hoylid ruchin v'sheidin v'lilin. He then fathered these different types of spirits, these mazikin. Shenemar, it says in the pasuk, Vayechi Adam Shloishim uma'ash shana, and Adam Harishon lived 130 years. Vayoyled b'demusar b'tzalmoi, and he then fathered in his image and in his demus. Michlal, it follows, da'ad ha'ina labit kitzalma oilid, that until now was not in his image that he then fathered. Meisvei asked the Gemara the following: Haya Reb Meir Oimer, Adam Harishon Chosid Gadol Haya. Adam Harishon was a great pious man. Kivan Sheroshik Niknesa Misa Al Yodoi, when he saw that there was a knas of Misa on Bnei Adam. From now on, mankind will have Misa. That was the Gzeira. Yoshav B'tainis Mea Ushloishim Shana. He sat in fast for 130 years. And he stayed away from his wife. He separated from his wife for 130 years. And he wore the zarzeit, girded himself with the te'enim around his waist for 130 years to make discomfort, almost like sackcloth. So this pious man was not with his wife for 130 years. So how could he have then relations that caused and fathered these ruchin and shadin and lilin? Says the Gemara, here we're talking about when he has shichva zera that emitted from himself. That's what then resulted in ruchin, shadin, and lilin. Says the Gemara, Vayter, another statement, V'amar Rabbi Yirmiyahu ben Elazar, Mikza shvocha shel Adam oimim befonav, v'kulo shelo befonav. Only partial shvach, praise, should be done in front of a person, whereas behind a person, when the person is not present, then you give all the shvach. The idea being that because if the person is present, you're giving all the shvach, it looks like you're being mechanif. You're being trying to then show ways and means of then getting him to like you. And that's why you're praising him before him. So therefore only mixas shvachai befonov, but not kuloi. Now the Gemara brings proof. Mixas shvachai befonov, the chsiv, it states, Ki oischo ra'isi tzadik lefonai b'dor hazeh. HaKadosh Baruch Hu calls Noach a tzadik. And then it states, Kulo sheloi befonav, but then he praised him even more without him being present. Dichsiv, Noach ish tzadik tamim haya b'doroisov. When it comes to then the tzaddik of Noach in front of him, he says to him directly, he says, you, ki oischa ra'isi tzadik lefonai. You, I see as a tzaddik before me. But when he was not in front of him, Noach ish tzadik tamim. He adds the superlative of tamim, of tzaddik tamim in his generation. Another statement authored by Rabbi Yirmiyahu, Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Yirmiyahu, Rabbi Elazar, might see what's meant by the pasuk v'hine alei zayis teref befia, referring to the yoina after it was sent out from the teva. It had a zayis, it had the alei zayis in its mouth. So it says that he was toraf befia. He plucked the alei zayis in his mouth. Amra Yoina stated, Lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ribono Shel Olam, you mezonosai merurin kezayis umesurim biyadcha. I prefer to have bitter mezonos that have come through your hands, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Va'al you mesukim kidvash v'tluyim biyad basar v'dam. Rather than to have mezonos that are sweet, but I have to come on to people. In other words, in the teva, Noach fed me quite well. I prefer to have your mizonos, even if it's going to be like the zayis, like the bark of the zayis tree, which is bitter, than to have the sweet parnasa, the sweet then food that is given to me by basar vadam. Ksiv hachat. So how do we know that indeed taraf is referring to food? That it says v'nei alei zayis teref befia. The pashup pshat means that he plucked a alei zayis in his mouth. States the Gemara, ksiv hacha teref. Here in this pasuk it states teref. V'ksiv hasim hatrifeni lechem chuki. And it says in another pasuk in Tehillim that you shall feed me the lechem of my chuki. In other words, we see that the word teref can also be used as food. So in essence, what Yoina was stating was, he was saying, V'hine alei zayis teref befia. The drasha is that, behold, in his mouth, meaning the mouth of Yoina was speaking the following statement, alei zayis teref, I prefer the food of the bitter zayis than to have the sweet food of basar v'dam. Says the Gemara weiter, V'amar Rabbi Yirmiyahu ben Elazar, another statement that he authored, called Bayis shenishmoin bo divrei Torah balayla shuv eino necharav. Any house that is heard divrei Torah in it is not going to be destroyed. That's how powerful is the divrei Torah at night. Shenemar states v'loy omar ayei eloika oisoi, and he didn't say, where is my Hashem, the one who made me? Noisein zmiros balayla, because I'm going to give zmiros balayla, meaning to say, I'm going to say divrei Torah at night, which will be heard like zmiros. Therefore, I will not be having to come on to saying, where is HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as if there's a tragedy. I need to call out HaKadosh Baruch Hu in my state. Omar Rabbi Yirmiyahu ben Elazar, another mimer that Rabbi Yirmiyahu ben Elazar stated, he says, Niskalalo Miyom shechar beis hamikdash dayoy la'olam sheishtamish b'shtei oisios. That means in the time of the beis hamikdash, the kohanim would say the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, they express the Yud Kei Vav Kei, the Shem HaMefurash. But once the Beis HaMikdash is destroyed, that cannot be stated any further. And therefore, the only thing that can be used in terms of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name is expressed as Yud Kei. Shnemar states, Kol HaNeshama Tehalel Ko Haleluka. That means after the Churban Beis HaMikdash, then all the Neshamas can then express Yud Kei, but not Yud Kei Vav Kei. V'am Rabbi Yirmiyahu ben Elazar, another statement that he made, Niskalelu b'kol Niskalelu shecheinehu Bavel, Niskalelu shchanehu. When Bavel was cursed, its neighbors were also cursed. V'niskalelu shoymro nisbaruchu shchenehu. But when Shomron was cursed, its neighbors were blessed. Niskala Bavel, Niskalu Shcheneho. When Bavel was cursed, so its neighbors were also cursed. Dirshu says in the Pasuk, V'samtia lemorash kipoid v'agmei mayim. I will place it, referring to Bavel, as a place where there's going to be wild birds and animals and swampy lands. So in other words, the people that were going to be situated, their neighbors, we say, Oy l'rasha, oy l'shchenoi. Just as they're going to be desolate, Bavel is going to be desolated, but the wild animals and wild birds that will then come as a result will also then affect the neighbors. Niskalo Shomron is baruchu shchenel. When Shomron was cursed, its neighbors were blessed. Dichsiv, it says, V'samti Shomron li'i hasodeh. I will place Shomron to be a mound on the field. And it continues on to say, on top of Yutes Amud Aleph, Lematoi Kerem. There'll be a planting of vineyards. So you see that the curse of Shomron brought a blessing to its neighbors.